Hello and welcome to the Miko Bits Show. And I'm your host, Miko Bits. And today we have an exciting episode for you. It is Idle Finance with a founder, Matteo Pandolfi. So, really looking forward to this show. A quick disclosure, my fund, Gumi Cryptos Capital, is investor in Idle Finance. So, we just want to keep our show very honest. So, those are our positions here. So without further ado, here's Matteo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Miko. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the opening question is always what is the problem that's solved by your project, Idle Finance?
Yeah, so Idle as a DeFi Yield aggregator and rebalancing protocol basically solves the problem for our users that instead of having to manually move the funds across different yield protocols in order to optimize their capital returns, the interest rate returns, they have to just like deposit funds into idle, and then the protocol will take care and will automatically and algorithmically rebalance funds in order to optimize the returns or minimize the risk for our users. So the main problem that it solves is that our users can stay idle, and without doing anything they can optimize their returns.
Yeah, it's great, right? Because in the early days of DeFi, people were always having to jump back and forth between popular protocols to kind of maximize their earnings. So, this really
Oh, yeah.
gives people a much more relaxing experience, and obviously they can be idle while this happens. So, I'd love to kind of understand a bit more about the types of protocols that you engage and, how do you sort of think about underlying protocols, obviously, because with DeFi, they're just crazy things you can do to get crazy yields, and so it's important, I think, for the audience to understand, what things you are doing, so they can decide whether it sounds crazy or not.
Absolutely. So, in terms of the underlying protocols that we aggregate with IDLE, we decided to take a path of getting only like solid and reliable protocols. As for today, we are aggregating Compound, AAVE, DYDX. So we are optimizing yields across those protocols, and we made it a sort of our culture. We want to give also security to our users. We want to bring security to the funds of our users. So that's our take on the underlying protocols.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, obviously those are exceedingly reputable projects. So, it definitely will give people a very nice feeling. So, with respect to sort of the founding, like, maybe I'd love to hear more about like yourself and your team and how did this all come to pass?
Absolutely. So the founding team, basically, we there is me and William that were initially like really into the blockchain and DeFi world. And I mean, William and I are like really old friends. We were in the same high school. We are that kind of friends that really like always build things together. We even started before DeFi and blockchain. I remember we were like building automated gardens with Arduino in like high school, and so still automation. And then we we bought like a CNC and a 3D printer and started to like selling things on Etsy. So we got different ventures together, ventures together. And I really remember that. Like I usually like hang out in William's place, and we were like just surfing the web to find inspiration for our future ventures. And I remember him like opening this website, ethereum.com, and telling me like, hey, this is like Bitcoin, but with smart contracts. And with smart contracts, you can basically program the way the money that is on Ethereum works. And I remember that I had this like haha moment, because at that time he was like studying computer science, I was studying economics and finance. And I remember that specifically at that time I was analyzing with my university the arbitrage concept. So I was looking at two-sided arbitrage, triangular arbitrage, all of different types of arbitrage. So that sparked into my mind an idea for like, okay, we gotta use these smart contracts and build something together. So that's like we began with arbitrage, and we started like doing arbitrage on centralized exchanges, on decentralized exchanges, with like Uniswap and Ether Delta. At that time, it was like kind of late 2018. And so we started like learning a lot about Ethereum. We started learning a lot about the EVM, about PGAs, you know, price gas auctions, and all like how we could like build things on top of Ethereum. So what we basically started doing at a certain point is we raised some funds with friends and family just because we wanted to test if that kind of system that we were building was scalable. So after that, we wanted to improve it because, you know, we saw that also, so for some time, the funds that we were managing were idle. So we wanted to give it more capital efficiency to those funds. And then, so we were looking at a pair in Uniswap and Compound because there was a discrepancy between CDAI, Compound DAI, and DAI in Uniswap, and also like minting and redeeming CDAIs in Compound. So we started like getting knowledge regarding lending protocols. And so we said to ourselves, okay, that's really cool because we can implement a sort of like fixed yield solution into our, into our system. So we started looking at researching at lending protocols. We saw that at that time, it was early 2019. There was Compound that was out. There was DYDX, the white paper, and also the protocol went out. Also BZX and Fulcrum, there was at that time. So obviously we were kind of obsessed with capital efficiency. So we said to ourselves, okay, we gotta take all of those protocols and try to also optimize that yield. But actually we were doing manually what Idle is doing right now. And we were losing too much time on that. We were losing like days and nights at looking at the interest rates. The interest rates were volatile, so we had to rebalance a lot. So we said to ourselves, okay, let's automate this thing. And then the thing is that we were thinking about the arbitrage bot. And we were, as I said before, we were evaluating if it was scalable. And it wasn't scalable because, you know, with with arbitrage opportunities, you can have like 100 million or you can have 1 billion, but that's the size of the arbitrage opportunity. And even worse, if you have like large capitals, you have to dilute the returns for all the for all the liquidity providers. So we saw in the automation that we were building with lending protocols a way to build a product that was really scalable. So after building the initial automation for moving the funds across different protocols, we said to ourselves, okay, now it's time to get into the market and try to give these product to the market and let it try and give us feedback. So thanks God in that period there was also Gitcoin. So we started like participating in hackathons. Initially, it was like a really kind of bad version of Idle. Initially, it was just like giving you the best rate at that time. But then in July 2019, we built an automation that was automatically moving the funds across different protocols to get the best yield. So after that, yeah, long story short, we won that hackathon in July 2019, and then the first thing that I wanted to do in that time, because at that time we were three, because there was William that was managing the smart contract architecture, Samuele that came after some time that was managing the front end and dashboard for Idle, and you know, we had this joke that I was doing everything but code. But at that time, I decided to like take some of the money that I got from my university and just go directly into ETH Berlin, a conference for blockchain and DeFi in August 2019, because I really wanted to give Idle in the hands of the users and get the feedback from our users. You know, as an entrepreneur, you gotta listen a lot to your users. You gotta get as much feedback as possible. So that's why I wanted to really go to if Berlin and give idle in hands of the users. Side effect is that I really got into the Ethereum community because I really saw how like great minds were bouncing idea together and like talking about different ways to improve liquidity, capital efficiency. So I really got into the Ethereum ecosystem, and also like so at that time was like the moment that I decided, okay, I wanna be full time on this. So I also dropped my job. I was working at a financial risk advisory consultancy agency, and then I decided to drop my job and start the adventure with Idle. At the same time, actually, Consensus was also contacted us and told us, yeah, guys, this is a really good product, and proposed us to come to New York for an acceleration program in order to meet other like great minds and founders like us. And obviously, we said it, yeah, absolutely. So we took
Wonderful.
a plane from Treviso, Italy, from New York, and then we got into this acceleration program that really got us into the weeds of like DeFi, really close to the community and founders of DeFi. So we started also seeing synergies with other protocols, with other product. And yeah, we are really happy to have done this kind of experience because it really bootstrapped our motivation and our knowledge and our experience in DeFi in order to make Idle as solid as possible and to grew it from that time to today.
That is fantastic. One of the things I didn't know that I really enjoyed hearing about is these very deep origins, right? Which is you were using Arduino for gardening, right? So that to
Yeah,
me is so funny because in a way, like the garden produces yield, right? It produces
yeah,
tomatoes, it produces, right? So you're literally yield farming, right? With automation, right? From all the way back to the
exactly.
beginning, right? Which is super
In a
funny,
way, yeah, that's true.
right? Like, cause the yield is tomatoes and like basil and like, whatever you need. So it's so funny. But,
Already
you know,
harvesting.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, right. So I think it's very exciting. I mean, what I would kind of love to get from you too is sort of like, what are the kind of projects and founders that you appreciate? Maybe ones that have been helpful to you, or ones that you think are underappreciated. Would love to get a feeling from you about that.
So the founders and protocols that they really helped me at the beginning, I think that both Compound and Aave, I think that they have been really helpful for me and the team because like this is another small story about Idle because after the hackathon, I remember that in the Compound Discord, they were talking about Idle, but they were basically saying that there was a problem with the very first version of Idle. So I was like, okay, that's cool. They're giving me feedback. That's perfect. And basically what they were saying is also the one of the main characteristics of Idle, and also main like features that it makes the protocol different from other sealed aggregators, which is the fact that the rebalance that we do is a dynamic rebalance. And the problem that Compound in Discord was highlighting was basically that we had a problem, which is the capital control. Because at that time, with the very first version of Idle, we were just moving all the funds from one protocol to another following the highest yield. But if like for the people that really knows about lending protocols, they will definitely know that if you move the funds from protocol A to protocol B, you're basically lowering down the interest rate on protocol B, and the interest rate on protocol A is getting higher. So with the first version, we were creating what we called the ping pong effect, because basically the funds were moving from protocol A to protocol B, but now the highest interest rate is in protocol A. So we got to go back to protocol A. But then you see you have this infinite loop of rebalancing, and
Mm.
it's not good. But that's why I'm telling that Compound has been helpful, because in a way they also helped us like understanding an immediate problem that we could solve, And like immediately, it was July 2019. In September 2019, we already solved that problem, introducing the dynamic allocation mechanism, which basically split the funds across different protocols to get the highest interest rate without having this ping pong effect. Other protocols that have been helpful, honestly, I really like. I've met with the Aave team in IF Berlin, and Stani and all the team. I think they have a great energy, and I really see how a crypto startup and a DeFi startup could become like a movement and build up a community like what like the Aave's community. So something that I really learned about from Aave is how to make a community that is really oriented to what you want to do, and that is really that really likes to work with the team, to follow the team. So I really loved how they build out their community. So those are the main protocols that I learned about. Of course, there are other main protocols that have been useful for us, and basically gave us a lot of knowledge and made us understand a lot of things. You also said about like undervalued protocols, right?
Sure.
In terms of undervalued protocol, well, of course, like um, the market goes where the most capital efficiency is. So, but I really like protocols. I'm thinking like right off my bat right now comes to my mind protocols like Teller, for example, that are trying to make a risk model on top of Ethereum, but by using like other financial data. So I really think that the over collateralized loans is what made DeFi growing a lot in the last years. But I also see like the under collateralized loans panorama, something that can be improved and something that can grow a lot. So I would say that, but just right off my bat. And
No, that's
there
very
are many
exciting.
other protocols that are undervalued.
Yeah, and we've had Stani on the show. He's extremely gregarious and friendly. So many founders have shouted him out because I think he's a very helpful human. Uh, I did get to meet up with him in Miami Bitcoin, and actually he's in town, so I'm hoping to see him tomorrow as well. I think that
Nice.
it'll be really exciting too. We also had the Teller protocol on the show, so we definitely are excited about that. I'll follow up with you to see if there's other guests that we should pursue and try to get on the show. So I think that you know, the thing that I'm really always interested to help people understand is, like what are your, it seems like your superpowers are definitely kind of in the area of getting into the finance side, and also kind of networking and, finding really interesting people and topics. So, I guess I'd love to kind of get a sense of like your superpowers and how you see them.
In terms of superpowers, I think that our superpowers has been to get the initial intuition of like aggregating different protocols and then bringing them to the market. Another superpower that I personally think we have in the protocol right now is the governance side. In November 2020, we decided to introduce the idle token, the idle governance token, because we wanted to give to our users and to our community also ownership of the protocol, and also a way to make their voice heard for the future decision of the protocol and the trajectory that the protocol was taking. But like our thesis when we released the idle token was also that most of the token holders will tend to be passive, and that's completely fine with us, and that's completely fine, because if you have to think about a stakeholder in a like a traditional company, they are not like every day talking and making meetings or like making improvements in the protocol. They tend to be passive, and that's completely fine. So another thing that I think we have as a superpower in the protocol is this leagues system that one of our other investors, Ryan Zurer from Dialectic, introduced us. I remember talking with him about this problem. I mean, he told me about this league structure, which I think is really like a way to organize community members and teams around the protocol in order to make it work, to make it grow, and to have different organizational units that work on the day-to-day maintenance of the protocol, while the token holders decide over the budget and the mandates and the team composition for those leagues. So also that it's really interesting. I can stay here talking about hours. I mean, I can stay here talking hours about these leagues, because I really like the modularity of them. Because as you think about them, like we started with a pilot league. So you see, we are a startup at the end of the day. So we were like a small team that then grew up with core contributors from the community. So with the pilot league, we decided to have also core contributors from the community working on the protocol. And then you can see, like, now we have a treasury league and a developer league. You can see that as a sort of like mitosis, if that makes sense, you know, like a
Yes.
cellular mitosis, that the pilot league divided into treasury and developer league that still are connected together because they have to work together, but they work on tasks that are on a different area of expertise, but on the same goal, towards the same goal, that is making the protocol sustainable and make it grow. In the future, I mean, we have a lot of ideas, and that's why the modularity of the league structure is really cool, because, you know, we gotta steer the protocol across the evolution and maturation of the DeFi market. So I think that this structure gives us a lot of flexibility in order to say, okay, we need more contribution on that area of expertise, so we can form a new league in order to improve that side of the protocol. You know, I think you know, but now we have also the marketing and communication league. And what's even more cool is that the community formed and bootstrapped that league and asked about that. So even the community now is understanding the league structure and the modules that can be implemented with the league structure. And then it's really exciting to me. Of course, you know, like the Moloch problem, like the coordination problem.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, a really great challenge that there is in the governance and also with the league system. You gotta make the system that is coordinated and coordinate human and also financial capital in order to produce an effect and to reach out goals. But I'm really excited about this kind of league structure, because yeah, the modularity of it's perfect for this kind of market, in my opinion. So those are the superpowers right now, both from the founders that introduced, but now are also from in the protocol, intrinsic to the protocol.
I'm pretty happy about that. I had a conversation yesterday with Stephen McKeon from Collaborative Fund about governance, and he was very interested in the example of things like the Lao and Flamingo that really focused on these very domain kind of subcommittees, right? So I think the league structure you're describing really optimizes for a bottom up modularization, which is very logical because I think the biggest problem with governance is typically that you have to have an intersection of the people who are knowledgeable, who really care about, the protocol, and the caring has to kind of apply to the whole of the system, right? But not everybody has complete knowledge of everything, right? So you really have to kind of create these bottom up kind of subgroupings. So I really think it's an admirable and intelligent structure for decentralized organizational governance. So, I think that's terrific. One thing I wanted to shift gears and understand is sort of the numbers, right? Which is, can you
Yeah,
give us a sense of kind of the current kind of traction numbers and current, kind of metrics associated with idle?
absolutely. So right now the protocol has been growing a lot since September, and right now we are reaching 275 million in asset under management. This is giving us it's the protocol since last year has been giving like about 6 million of returns in interest rate returns to our users, And if you analyze the returns right now with 275 million, with the performance fee that the protocol takes, it's about 2 million per year right now. Of course, with the growth, I mean, we passed from 5 million in November to 275 million now. So it's a pretty good growth, and we are planning and looking forward to make it grow more. So that's more regarding the metrics and the numbers for the protocol.
That's exciting. And so, you mentioned, 273 million effectively, sort of TVL. I guess, what are your sort of feelings about, are there any kind of natural limits, or, how do you see this, and where do you see this going in the longer run?
Yeah, so that's a good question because internally, our first milestones that we have and we want to reach as soon as possible, of course, is the 1 billion milestone. But Danny, if you think about like Vanguard or Big Rock, I mean, they're managing, and that there's something like comparable to what yield aggregators protocol, big DeFi protocols like Compound, AAVE, Wire, or us, they're managing trillions. I think like Big Rock has right now 7 or 8 trillions that are managing. So of course the sky is the limit. But yeah, that's like a milestones, a really long term milestones that all the DeFi needs to point at. But yeah, internally, the very first milestones that we're looking at is 1 billion milestones, and that we will build more out from that.
Yeah, it seems like those are great goals, and they're very logical and seems very reasonable, especially the important role that yield aggregation will play in going forward. So, I guess for me, would love for you to touch a little bit on like roadmap, and a little bit about sort of what are the upcoming improvements that you're most excited about.
Mm-hmm. So I think we can split now the roadmap into three main topics: strategies, protocol, and governance. So on the strategies side, right now we have two different strategies with either the best yield and the risk adjusted strategy. What we are working on right now are two different types of new strategies that we want to introduce to our users in order to enlarge the suite of strategies that we have. One is coming from a partnership that we're doing with Nexus Mutual, which is for their brand new product, the yield coverage product. We would like to offer to our customers and to our users and liquidity providers this covered yield strategy, where they are basically the cool thing about this strategy, which is one of the problems that we got in the past with insurances, especially for yield aggregators, is that this new product covers the entire stack of protocol that are included into the strategy. So both idle, compound, AAVE, YDX. So it's the entire stack, and that's really interesting, especially like for in order to give a more diversified risk strategy. So that's one of the strategies that we're working on, to have like a full covered strategy that basically buys up insurance with the yield that is gained by that strategy. Still, on the strategy side, we have another really cool product, which is the tranches strategies. On one side, the tranches strategies, on one side, we're doing a partnership with Barnbridge. We are talking a lot. They are a great team. I love how their energy, and also they are really like security oriented, and it's similar to our culture. So I really like that team. And so on one side, there is the partnership that we are making with Barnbridge regarding the fixed yield for tranches. But on the other side, we are also working on our kind of model of the tranches. And maybe I don't want to spoil too much,
But help,
I'm just making a little bit
help the audience a little bit with this term. So when you talk about
of the
tranches,
tranches.
like yeah, like
Yeah, tranches.
break that down for us a little bit better.
Absolutely. Tranches basically are a strategy that divide the yield into two different type of tranches. So the senior and junior tranches. The junior tranches will basically cover up the senior tranches in the case of a catastrophic event or like losses of funds. So you can see that like you're giving an higher APY to the junior tranches, so they are recompensated for the risk that they are taking. And on the other side, you're offering to your customers a senior tranche that is more stable, has a lower API, but has also an intrinsic higher risk profile, has a better risk profile compared to the senior, to the junior tranches. What we're trying to introduce in Idle with this new product for the tranches is basically also what the C tokens in 2019 introduced. So we would like to make it more like continuous. I don't want to, as I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but that's something that we really like because it will give flexibility to this protocol, to this product, and also to our liquidity providers to use these tranches strategy. So that's only on the strategy side. On the protocol side instead, the next big thing is the staking, the idle staking. It's something that our users has been asking a lot. If I have to think about like Idle Cafe, we have a more like degen chat, you know, and I remember that like almost every day we have someone that is asking where can I stake Idle. So we really hear from them, and we want them to, and we're building that out. It's really soon. I mean, it's coming out really soon, and we really like the concept because we are also sharing part of the fees that the protocol is getting. And the cool thing of the model that we have chosen is basically it's based off the curve model. But what I really like about that model is the fact that we can give benefits both to more retail users, but also to more like B2B users. So you can encapsulate into the same staking model both benefits for retail users, but also a lot of benefits for B2B users. We are starting with the fee sharing, with the staking, with the idle staking. It will be really soon. We are ultimating now. Today, like Samuele shared with us some screenshots for the new dashboard for stakers. So it's really soon. And that's the next big thing for the protocol side. And we are all really excited about that. Last thing on the governance side. So of course, our roadmap is to like the vision is to enlarge the leagues system. So to introduce other leagues, depending on the needs of the protocol. In our initial view, there was also like a yield league that was managing like these strategies, helping out the developer league in order to maximize and optimize these strategies, but also like producing financial reports in order to give to the community and our customers more financial reports about the protocol. Or we are thinking about also a compliance league. We have many ideas on the leagues side, but a really cool thing that we are also working on right now on the governance side is the concept of D2D collaboration, DAO to DAO collaboration. We started off with the B2B, but we are also like working on the B2D side because, you know, I think that's really interesting because in like since we are all working and living on the rails of the Ethereum and blockchains, with like a D2D collaboration, it could be really a reciprocation agreement where like a protocol and a DAO is providing a service to another DAO, and the other service might also provide this another service. The other protocol is providing another service to the DAO. So I see it as a reciprocal agreement between different DAOs, and that's really exciting, and that's something that we're working a lot on the governance side. And honestly, just to make a comparison with like some historic thing, you know, in Italy, in Veneto, in the region where I come from, there is this thing in like the consortium. So basically, there were like different departments for like shoes, for making shoes. They were artisans. They were just artisans. So small, like little teams and companies that were working and specializing on a specific service, but then they all started to like interact between each other, to interlace relationships, to exchange services, and that became an industry just because of these like small teams and companies that were putting together their knowledge. So like at the end of the day, they became like companies like Lotto, like Jeux, or like Prada, or these kind of things. So I mean, they really became a huge and mass market. So I really, that's why I really like the D2D concept, because I can see how DeFi can really grow a lot by interlacing different DAOs and by giving service and products between different DAOs in order to grow the entire ecosystem. So that was on the governance side. So we're working a lot also on the D2D agreements.
Yeah, I love the thinking. For me, I've been thinking recently about the historical Renaissance, right? And one of the fascinating things that emerged in the Renaissance, obviously, there was art patronage. So we're seeing some of that already, where wealthy Bitcoin sovereigns are now providing patronage to NFT artists, right? So this is something that occurred in the Renaissance, in the historical Renaissance, right? But in a sense, the nucleus of the European historical Renaissance was actually in Italy, and of course, the church being in Rome or in the Vatican. So this is such an interesting history, because you're talking actually about the rise of skilled crafting guilds, right? The people who are building these shoes, or building, leather craft, or building, each different group has a skill, right? And these skills are being sort of concentrated into these guilds, right? So you can really see these DAOs as a way of concentrating, skilled craft makers, right? And that each maker is sort of like a guild that concentrates a specific craft, right? So when you go to like a barn bridge, right, and you're really talking about sort of like the idea of senior and junior tranches, or you're talking about risk analysis around this, I definitely encourage people to go watch the episode of Miko Bit's show with Tyler from Barnbridge, because I think you'll get a deeper insight, and I think you'll also really appreciate why Idle Finance has chosen to kind of partner with them on things like risk analysis and understanding of these tranches, right? So it seems like what you're devising is something that is part of this sort of evolution of DeFi.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I would love to kind of get from you too, like what your kind of motivations are. Like, what are and this can be a very personal thing. It doesn't have to be kind of a corporate thing, so, but what are the things that personally get you going, the things that make you passionate, whether it be references, books, movies, or, your heroes, or anything, it could even be a cup of coffee. So whatever it is that, how do you get moving, and what are the exciting things for you?
Honestly, if like what gets me up every day is essentially like, of course, I have an inclination to like, I already said that we have this obsession with capital efficiency. I'm kind of like on the financial side. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I'm really love to like research about how we can optimize and maximize both fields, but also on the risk side. I really like. I've been working in that sector, and I really see like that's something that in my knowledge I can put my knowledge in order to make it better and to better manage the risk side for the product. So that's more like on the financial side. Something that really like motivates me is also the community, honestly, even though like of course there are like tough times, but tough times always pass. Tough people don't. So I mean, like I really like how we are close to the community, and how like compared to the traditional financial ecosystem and industry, we are so like transparent and open to the discussion with the community. Something that I really love is also the governance forums for all the protocols, but obviously I'm leaving more on the idols one. But I really like how we can like exchange ideas And like maybe the old model was these startups with these like big brain founders with they were only deciding. But now, like in DeFi, there are still great minds, of course, and it needs to have like great minds in the protocols. But something that I really like is that the community can also give their contribution, and you create this network effect of ideas that help us like grow a lot. So that's also something really exciting, is like the community interaction that we have, that brings us a lot of ideas and brings to the protocol a lot of value. So I would say that as like main motivation that are for me, at least for working in DeFi.
I mean, it's super exciting the way you're describing this, right? Because in a sense, what's happened is that value actually starts to arise within community, right? And as you engage your community and even adopt some of your community's ideas, the level of engagement, the level of excitement that your community has increases, right? And they become kind of your principal evangelists and sponsors, and because ultimately, like, people really want to participate, right? They want to feel included, and they want to feel like
Exactly.
they're part of something much bigger, which is exciting. So I love the mindset. So with respect to kind of the long vision, not even just scoped to idle itself, but like your long term vision of the what I call the big idea, right? Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
see, I think probably related to DeFi, but like, just related to human, society. Like, how do you, what do you see as sort of your big idea?
Yeah, so well, that's a really big question in terms like also the human society, but I really like it because I mean, like if you have to analyze the current history and current time that we are right now, we have all the technology and also like the period that we just passed. It's been like a sort of like forced digital education for the whole world. So I see that like people are starting to thinking that like working every day in office is something that is not needed, and they can work basically from remotely. Honestly, I still value the human feedback, of course. I for with Idol and with the leagues, for example, I also propose to do like some recurrent retreatments or like meetings with both the league's team but also the community in order to keep this human feedback. But I think that the human society right now is understanding that they don't need to be like all in the same place, all in the in like all in the big cities. So I see that as a sort of like change that can happen. Of course, I cannot like read the future, but still, that's something that I can see happening. Like the human society will become more like sparse, yeah, across the world in like in some ways. And I mean, DeFi and DAOs just fit really well with this vision because I mean, we are natively working from remote. We are natively thinking that it doesn't matter if we have someone that is working from Australia, someone that is working from US, someone that is working from Europe. I mean, we are decentralized. So um, I think that the human society is now realizing this, that they can, with the technology that we have today, they can basically have a life and work wherever they want. And I think that like the bigger picture is that DeFi could have to fit into this new paradigm, and this will make it grow. Of course, I'm biased, of course, a little bit, but that's what I'm seeing for the long term vision.
Yeah, that's a beautiful vision. And I think the thing that I'm seeing in your design, right, both with this idea of D to D, DAO to DAO, as well as the design of the leagues, right, is that you're really creating these concentrations of expertise, right? And then you're kind of creating the ability for these expertise, obviously completely non geographic, right? But you're really saying like the earth could use this concentration, right? And then these concentrations can then interact with each other to create like a public good. So that seems like a pretty grand future.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, this has been a great journey. I would love to kind of have, give you the final word. Like, if you have anything that you feel like you'd love to add, even if it's just kind of where to follow you and the company, like those are very welcome. Or if you have any other statements you'd love to make, I'd love to have you close out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So regarding the how to follow idol, I think that the main channel that we have is in Twitter. So feel free to follow us in Twitter. We would be happy to see you there and also to like and retweet our posts. If you want to talk with the team, you gotta jump on either the governance forum if you have ideas to propose and you want to structure a more like structured proposal. If you want to have like a small talk or just to ask something to the team, Discord is where we live the most, or even Telegram. We also have a Telegram channel. So those are the main channels that we have. And other than that, yeah, I think that I'm really excited for this summer because we are seeing a lot of growth also for the scalability of the ecosystem. So I think that's something that we will also work on and we will participate in. So I'm really excited to for this summer and DeFi because I see it as a great opportunity to take this market into the mass market and make it really grow. So yeah, I would like to close with that because yeah, I'm really excited to go into this summer and see both on our side with the protocol to keep growing the leagues and keep growing the contributors from the community, but also to give our contribution to the entire ecosystem and make it grow.
Wonderful. And, all of those channels and jumping off communication points can all be accessed through the simple web URL idle.finance. So, you can look at the website and follow the little links to everything. And, so I think it's definitely a wonderful project to watch. And, I think that the idle staking and all of these kind of improvements coming, I think will be very welcome and, really promising, especially in light of what we think will be a general DeFi summer, especially, in July with the beautiful changes coming to Ethereum. So, we definitely are all looking forward to these great times. So thanks for having some time for us on the Miko Bits show.
Thank you, Miko.
Okay, bye.
Bye.